All right, hello and welcome to Digital Photography's I3 lecture series. We're thrilled to have Mark Yankus as tonight's guest speaker. Originally from Long Island, Mark moved to New York as a child and studied photography at the High School of Art and Design. In college at the School of Visual Arts, Mark went on to study painting and received a BFA in Fine Arts and Illustration. These days he lives and works in Greenwich Village. Mark's fine art and publishing career has included exhibitions at the Brooklyn Museum, Clamp Art, four times at Clamp Art?
I think it's 3 solo shows and a bunch of group shows.
Exit Art and the Library of Congress. His artwork has graced the covers of books by Salman Rushdie, Philip Roth, and Alan Hollinghurst, among many others. His images have also been used for theatrical posters in such acclaimed Broadway productions as Jane Eyre, August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and John Patrick Shanley's Pulitzer Prize-winning play Doubt. His work is in the permanent collections of the New York Historical Collection, Museum of Fine Arts Houston, and the Library of Congress. Next year, Mark will be having his 4th solo exhibition at Clamp Art. So please help me welcome Mark to our lecture series.
Thank you, Jaime, Katrine, and Tom. I'm honored to be here, and I'm really happy that you all showed up. You said everything I was going to say, so I don't have anything else to say. I'm gonna start with the slideshow. So in the this says 1970s, but in the 1960s, 1968, I moved to New York City, and I came from the wooded areas of. That's me at, I'm not sure, I'm like 11, 12, or 13. And I'm standing on 79th Street with my mom's apartment. And I just remember the first day that I moved to New York City, after hanging out in nature and green and water, to this roar of the city and the gray. Everything was gray, and all the buildings, I was looking up really tall, and it was just culture shock. And I used to go down the block to, I lived on First Avenue. I'd go to the Metropolitan Museum, and I'd go there almost every day and look at art. It was great to have access to the museum. So I went to High School of Art and Design, 1975. I thought what I was wearing was the normal way to dress. You know. I had no idea that this was outrageous, but you know, with the big bow tie, because if you look, nobody else is dressed like that. You know, this guy is very classic. This could be today, and you know, the tie, and there I am with the bow tie. So I was a little different. So one of my first photographs in high school was my cat Panther, and so that's one of my my earliest photographs. And since this is a digital program, I scanned it in, so it's digital now. This is a picture that was in my yearbook that I took this friend up on the roof of my building, and I had her hold her hand, and I said, okay, just move it just a little bit, and that's how I created this illusion. This is before Photoshop in the 70s. Yeah. Color Studio. So I want to try and show you how I got from this work to this work, which is 2008, to this work, which is 2013, which is my current work. And that's another new piece. And I'm going to show you this work at the end of the presentation. So we're going to go back to the 70s. I had an obsession with scale and giants. Like the woman on the roof, she was a giant. And this was in the Brooklyn Museum. They had a show about the Brooklyn Bridge in the 70s. And somehow I met this curator at the young age of 19 or 20, and she picked it and put it in the show with people like David Hockney and all these amazing art people. So these are engravings that I would collect, and I didn't draw them. They're engravings that I would scan in, not scan in, we didn't have scanners back then. I'd either make photostats or I would cut it out from the books. And from doing this, I learned a lot about shape. By paying attention to either using scissors, which I first used, then I graduated to X-Acto knife. I learned to see and to learn about form and how to concentrate and create these cuts to make these shapes. And there's a lot of architecture back then as well. Not in this picture, but in some of the others. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Ellen, you're late. Only kidding. Hi, Ellen. So I was making these while I was going to SVA. I saw a show of Joseph Cornell when I was really young, and someone who worked here at the school recommended I go check out his work. I didn't know who he was. And it was a huge influence. Wonderful artist, does collage and assemblage. Then the Poetry Society paid me $50, and they used my work throughout the entire magazine. And I was so excited. It was my first time being published. And then, I won't say who it is, but the person who invited me to be in here offered me a grant of a couple $1,000 if I would split it with him. And then I had that dilemma of, should I do it? I'm a young kid, that's a lot of money. But I did turn him down. Someone's sitting there. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Sorry. 1980s. So I started exhibiting at a gallery called the Key Gallery in Soho, and it was above a key store where they made keys. So that's me at 20. And I continued to make these collages. It's one of my early first jobs. My first job was for the New York Times for the garden section. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the image to show you. Then I started to introduce color. Oh, it's going quick. 1990s. This is an invoice for my first computer that came with 1 meg of RAM, a 1.4 floppy disk drive, and a 13-inch monitor, and it was about $5,000. Yeah, wickedly fast. I just thought it'd be fun to save that invoice. So I continued doing the engraving collage work in 1990 with the computer. And so it was a slow evolution of the style. But so I continued doing it, got a little more refined. You don't see the cut marks as much. But the problem I was having was I was starting to evolve in my head, and I couldn't find images that I wanted. So I started to photograph pieces, like the book. And started, then I was creating my own images that were more interesting to me. And then Rolling Stone magazine, I started to work with Rolling Stone, and I did this for a group called Insane Clown Posse. Oh.
It's fine.
Perfect. And then I did this for Radiohead, and that's how I got introduced to Radiohead. And then I started working for the Atlantic Monthly, and I've been doing work for them steady for years. That's Norman Mailer. And does anyone know who that is?
Flannery.
Yeah, Flannery O'Connor. She collected chickens and was a bit tortured. Steve Snyder. This is I couldn't find the cover, Steve, but this is a book I did for St. Martin's Press. And then I started shooting things for me, and I'd go around the neighborhood at night. I was drawn to the twilight and the dark. And whenever I'd travel, I'd photograph. So the next thing I did is I made a book, an artist's book, and I made about 100, and I sent them out in the late 90s to a bunch of art directors who design book covers. And this is the inside of the book. And then I got this assignment from this designer, Carol Carson, to do a book about Cairo. It was a history book. And I got really carried away, and I ended up doing 9 sketches. And they ended up using almost all 9 for 9 different books. Am I going too fast, or is this good pacing? Good. And this was the piece they picked for the cover. And then designer Chip Kidd asked if he could use this for a book, Slackjaw. It's about Jim, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, Neifel, who has, he has an eye degenerate disease. And so they thought this would be a good image. And then I started doing catalog covers for the publishing houses. I did this for Henry Senyi right there. And then someone asked if they could use this for a Philip Roth book. This is called City. This is James. And then someone asked me if I had any outtakes from this shot for a Paul Auster book. So I gave them that. And they did this. I like it. So in, 2005, I came by the gallery, Clamp Art, with my work, and I asked him if I could show it to him. And I had this artist book I had just made, and Brian Clamp took a look at it and liked it, but we didn't do anything till a year later when I met him in Portland, Oregon, at a portfolio review called Photo Lucida. And it was at that moment that he took me on, and I I had one piece in a show, and then he brought my work to an art fair in LA called Photo LA, and he sold 19 pieces. And after selling 19 pieces, that kind of cemented the relationship, and that led to a solo show, and we're just about to have our 4th one next year. So I like architecture, I like shapes and forms. I like what happens when in the soft focus it's very ethereal. This is the poster for my first show. And Rodrigo Carrell, he's a book designer, designed the ad and the card for my first show. And he did a great job. So this is Clamp Art in their old space. Laura.
Mark, all this is what we would call it in camera that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, they're in camera, and then I add texture to some of them. Some of them are straight photographs, and some have been, the shapes haven't been manipulated, just the texture. And the texture is from like old books. Like the grain of the paper. This is in the East Village where Cooper Union was, and they ripped the building down, and I had this short window to photograph this building before it was hidden again. So I started to get jobs working for the theater, and I would photograph actors for myself, because I live in the West Village and there's a lot of actors in the neighborhood, and I go to these coffee bars and I meet them. And this is J. Smith Cameron. She's where's she? She's in a show right now on TV. She was on True Blood, and she does a lot of Broadway, and she's a great actress. This is Waris, who was in the Georgine Express. He played the conductor, or the Darling Express. Patti LuPone, and I did a CD cover of Torch songs. So Whoopi got cast in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and they asked me to do the poster. And this is what I made, and it ran as a full-page ad in the New York Times. And the agency said that it was one of their favorite posters ever, and I was really excited. And then the next day I got a phone call from the art director, and he said that Whoopi thinks that she looks like she's taking a dump. So I had to redo it, but they paid me double, so it was okay. And she asked me to, I don't know why, but she asked me to shrink her. So now she's really small and the rock is big. This is Cherry Jones, and she was in the play Doubt, and we did the off-Broadway poster, which was this. And Brian O'Byrd, the co-actor, was really mad that he wasn't in the poster, and he threatened to leave the show. So I got to do the poster again with him in it. And then this is what we did for Broadway. And that's the theater outside. There's in Central Park, there's the conservatory, about 103rd Street. And I worked on, my first play I ever worked on was in 2000, Jane Eyre. And we had these costumes made, and we went to the conservatory, and we walked all around, and I was photographing them. And a security guard came up to us and said, "What are you doing? Do you have permission?" I said, "Oh no, they're friends. They're just friends." He went, "Oh, okay," and then he walked away. There's a lot of them, so I'll go through them quickly. For this job, they gave me his actual passport, and that was really cool. It's a book about losing a brother. And what I did is I photographed them together, and then I asked her to not move and keep her hand where it was, and I had him get up, walk over there, and then I photographed the chair empty. And then in Photoshop, I combined the two photographs with transparency, and that's how I made that. And then I made masks and I painted through.
Mark, can you talk about the process of being commissioned to do these?
Sure.
You collaborate with an art director?
Yeah. There are a number of different. There's actually a bunch of art directors here who could tell you too. But there's a number of ways that I work. Sometimes I'll get a manuscript to read, and then I'll come up with a concept. Another time, an art director will just say what they want, and they won't give me anything to read. And sometimes it's a combination of the two. You did? Did you love it? I thought it was a great book. That's one of the few books that I did the type. After I did this book, this is on Bank Street in the West Village, I don't know why they did this, but they chopped the tree down and they painted the house. So it's completely different. I think this is a book about, 'cause I did this so long ago, these people that are trying to survive on this trip, and they end up eating each other. Kind of gruesome. I got this job during the summer, and somehow I had to change it and make it winter. So I went on Flickr, and I typed in the statue, and this is my photograph, but I took from Flickr photographs of the statue during the winter where the snow was resting, and I cloned it from, so I'm not really stealing someone else's photograph. I'm just taking a little bit of the snowflakes. So it looks like winter, right? Allison.
How much time do you have to do one of these covers?
Depends on who the art director is. It's a week to a month to develop it, and then after that, there's more work on it. So it could last several months per book.
Mark, related question. On the one before, how do art directors often give you? Do you get a sense of where the title's going to go, or do you sort of?
No. I'm just always thinking about creating space for topography.
The question.
Oh yeah. The question was, how do I decide on, or does the art director tell me in advance how much space they're going to use for type? And they don't. I just create space. This is a fairly recent book. It's the El Dorado, and the Wall Street Journal did this article about the San Remo building, which is near this building, and the article was about how the author was kind of criticizing how book publishers are all using the San Remo building for their cover. But this, so I wrote the newspaper online, and I said, well, if you look really closely at the top, it's the El Dorado. Okay. Sorry, Mom. I brought some text. I want to read this to you. In September of last year, my life took an unexpected turn. 9 years ago, actually, I'll start with this. The mask was so tight, I panicked and wondered, how was I going to survive the next 30 days? 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The good news, if good news could be found in this, is it's a slow-growing form of cancer which can be absent for long periods of time. Recently, and this is in September, a mass started to grow in my parotid gland just by my right cheek near my ear. Original treatment involved chemotherapy and a high-tech drug called Rituxan, which targets the cancer cell and doesn't kill healthy cells. My doctor felt that radiation would be very effective treatment this time, as non-Hodgkin lymphoma responds well to radiation, and it seems to have worked because I'm in remission right now. I had to wear a custom-made mask so as not to move my head. The mask was extremely constricting and uncomfortable, but was effective in keeping my head still to protect me from not getting the wrong areas exposed to radiation. Being that the mask played a major part in this treatment and left a big impression on me, I'm calling this series Masks. I was kind of embarrassed about that. I wanted to Photoshop it out, but I thought I'd be real and keep it in. That's Monkey, my cat Monkey. And the way I photographed a lot of these, I had a wireless remote that's really tiny and flat. I had no idea what the machine would look like. For some reason, I thought there was this tiny little thing that, like a dentist, and I thought it was only going to be like 2 or 3 times, but it was every day for a month. And it looks like a spaceship. I have to live with this for the rest of my life. It's, you know, it comes and goes, but I'm not going to let it define me. You know, I am an artist, and that's my focus. And I don't think about this except for when it comes up. I really push it in the background, except for tonight. I think it's very strange. It's weird. I had no idea they were going to do all this.
How do you take those photos?
Well, I did it several ways. I had a wireless remote. I had an assistant on some days, and I actually gave the camera to the staff, and I told them exactly what I wanted. I positioned them, and then I gave them the camera. This is before I had permission to do the project. I had to get permission from like about 5 different people. So I shot this in the bathroom with my iPhone, but that's from the mask. That's how tight it was. That's my doctor, Dr. Hugh. This is a saline solution that they gave me to help me with the side effects of the taste from the radiation. And those were to protect my mouth, the mouth guards. And those are all the different kinds of medicine they gave me. I didn't take it all, but some of it was highly addictive. And that's after they gave me, I don't know why they do this, but they gave me the mask. They said, take it home. And so that's me at home. And that's me after, in the park.
Right on cue.
So, feeling better. And because I was feeling better and so thrilled to be done with this 30 days of radiation, I started working on this book, another artist book called The History of History. And they're images, historical images that I created, that I either photographed or I combined with found imagery. And then I photographed the books, these old books, placed my collages into the books, and then I actually made a physical book of the whole thing.
driving ideas behind these collages? Is that,
Of this particular
or in
project, or
general, I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know. I've been doing collages since I was like 3 years old. It's just part of my anatomy. But I have an interest in history and historical images. I'm drawn to them, and old textures. It's just something. It's just love it. And we're about to go into the last section, which is the newest work. It's the back cover of the book. Unlike the other architectural work, the cityscapes, these are portraits of obscure buildings throughout the city, and I'm silhouetting out in some of these. I'm removing the other buildings. Like there was a bunch of ugly buildings here, and I cut them out and faded this out. And I've never done that before. In the buildings, I always, in a way, being a digital artist, I was a purist and felt it was wrong to do that. And then one day I thought, why not? and it's very liberating, and it's exciting. I really love making these. So.
Mark, are you also?
Wait, use the microphone.
Mark, are you also altering the buildings in some of these photographs? They don't actually look
I am.
like real. Okay.
I am, and I'm going to show you. This is the raw file. I saw this building on the street. I was walking around, and I thought the three buildings were striking, but from the street I couldn't get what I was looking for. So I went upstairs and I took the elevator up and I knocked on an office door, and I went inside and asked if I could take a picture out their window. And the only way I could get this shot was with a wide-angle lens, but it's distorted. This is not what I want. So I opened it up in Lightroom. I work with Lightroom and Photoshop, and Lightroom is great. And I did this. So it was that to this. And I corrected the aspect ratio and turned it around, and I added the texture. And they're subtle illusions. This is called the Sapco building. And you can see the writing on the wall. Oops. It's my local deli, closed, and they put all this wood in front of it, and it just looks really interesting. These kind of look like surfboards to me. There was a phone booth that was over here, and I removed that. And I think there was a car over here, and I made that disappear. So Clampart brought this work to APAD, which is an important photography show that's held at the Armory once a year. And we ended up selling a lot of these prints. And a museum, a collector bought 4 of them for a museum show. I don't know if I could say the name of the museum yet, but it's going to be in the show about architecture. I think it's next year. That's I shot that in Manhattan. That's New Jersey, using a 200 millimeter lens. That's the Pierre Hotel. So this is a before shot. It's the raw file, and I wanted to photograph it from here, but I couldn't go in there because they were doing all this construction. They wouldn't let me in. So I had to figure out how to get what I wanted, and this is what I ended up with. And what I did again is I just sort of like rotated the photograph and screwed it and like putty. And here are 2 kind of abstract pieces. So when they rip down the buildings, it's always something wonderful in the brick, like paintings. This is my latest piece.
So doing commercial work, do you find your fine art style changing as you're doing the book covers and everything else? Like your eyes drawn to things for the books that you're reading to make covers for, or is it completely separate for you?
The it's kind of like right now, today, in May 2013, my book covers are kind of the old Mark Yankus, and what I'm doing now with the architecture, with the portraits of the obscure buildings, are the new Mark Yankus, and it's coming from somewhere else. I don't know where, but I've had this clarity lately. Maybe it's the radiation. Ask me more. Henry.
Hi, Mark. In your earlier in career, you focused on soft focus imagery. Why did you explore that so much? Your work really stood out out of all the early photographers we saw around that time, and your work had that beautiful softness and texture. But really, the soft focus was really prominent in your work. And now your newer work goes for more clarity and sharpness. Not that they're connected, but what inspired you to explore that area?
So I think you're asking me 2 questions. Yeah. Why did I explore the soft focus, and why am I now exploring sharp? There's something, for me, magical with the soft focus when I'm looking through the lens and I'm adjusting it for my vision instead of the going sharp. It starts to be about shape and color and form and emotion and memory. So that's why I did that. But to be honest, I wanted to no longer look like the other people that are doing the soft focus. And as much as I was good at it and liked doing it, I wanted to be me. I wanted to do something that was more unique, something truer to Mark Yankus. And that's why I started to explore the sharp focus.
It's almost the same exploration, but just two different ways of looking at it.
Right.
With your newer work, are you referencing at all architectural renderings or models to
I know
give you
they look like
inspiration?
architectural renderings,
Yeah.
but they're it's not intentional. A number of people mentioned that to me. Yeah. I think they kind of look like architectural renderings because of the way I'm silhouetting, removing all the other buildings, and the texture behind the image. Yeah, and the tone. Julie.
Hi. I'm wondering the building you showed us, which you quite extremely changed the perspective of and made it look so fantastic. This corner.
Was it? Oh,
Keep going.
was it that one? Or
No,
the
no,
other
no.
one?
The very sharp corner building
Right,
where you've
yeah.
gone up and borrowed someone's window. I mean, how long in post-production does that take, and when do you know when to put it down? How long does that take you? That must take days and days.
Did you hear her
You're
question?
sharing.
I think in the beginning of exploring this work, it was fairly quick. It would take me maybe a week, but now it's taking me weeks to create one image.
Do you give yourself any kind of
I mean, the
time
last
frame, or
piece
do you
I
have
showed
to-
you, I'm still working on it,
Right.
and I've actually go back to some of these and continue working on them. What was your question?
Do you have to have some kind of time frame in your head? Because
No deadline.
No
I don't want a deadline. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Amara.
Oh, I thought he had a question. Oh, no. You changed your mind? Okay.
After you sold a print, because you said these were very successful at APAD, do you still adjust your files?
No.
Or like once
no.
it's
I mean, once I hand over the print to the gallery, it's sort of like locked in a safe. It doesn't change. It's just when it's in my home, on my computer, when no one else has seen it, that's when I can keep making changes until it just feels right.
Wait, we've got the mic. Wait.
Hi.
We'll get it to you.
I'm a little curious. Do you remember the address of that particular building?
That's on Broadway and around 19th Street.
It's 920 Broadway. I did the facade restoration
Oh,
and
yeah?
I fixed the roof too.
Wow. Oh, I thought I saw you up there.
Okay. I just had a question on your prints. How big are they, and what do they look like? Do you frame them? What's the? What do they look like?
They're different sizes. Like the new work, 22 by 17 inches for the small size, and the large size is close to 30 by 40.
Frame?
Paper size. And so, kind of close to that frame. Usually when I frame it, I add a 3-inch border for the 22 by 17 around the image, and then I have a frame. So if you talk to me after, I can kind of go into more detail, because I have to look at my notes.
Mark, I want to ask you about the artist books, edition size, or how do you go through that process?
I think I've done about 4 or 5 artist books, and I have not actively tried to sell them yet, so I don't have an edition number.
Does that mean that there's only one book or a
No, I
master
have
book?
more than
or-
one of each book. Any more questions? There's two.
Could you talk a little more about artist books? I'm going to guess these are all handmade. You're not sending them out once you get all the images collected and designed and.
I thought, how do I make my artist books? I make them at home, and I use an inkjet printer. One of the books I did, I brought it to, after I printed the images, I brought it to a bookmaker who stitched the edge for me. And another way I did is with a staple. I bought a staple buying machine and just stapled them. Another time I bought screws and I screwed it together. Hi.
Hi, I loved your portraits, and I was wondering if are you going back to those, or those just are assignments, or?
Most of those
portraitures?
portraits were done for myself, except for the posters. And am I going back to it? I continue to shoot people. Yeah, it's not done. Just right now I'm focusing on this and that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.